This is the Discuss Metal Podcast with Eric Shirey of the Charon Collective. Hosted by Dan Terry. Presented by discussmetal.com.
What is up, everybody? My name is Dan, and you are listening to the Discuss Metal Podcast, or maybe you're watching it because we're doing this live. And I can't wait to have this talk tonight. I am sitting down with Mr. Eric Shirey of the Charon Collective. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Just hanging out, ready to talk to you in my wife's awesome cookie bakery office.
It certainly looks cozy.
Oh, it is very cozy. This is actually both of our offices. But
okay.
as you can see, she gets this wall. My wall's over here.
Well, you can see what I've done to my walls behind me. I need to get more posters. My final goal is so that you can't see any of the wood grain behind it anymore. It's just covered in posters, movie posters, comic book posters, video game posters, you name it.
Right. Mine is a Star Wars poster, some signed Star Wars stuff, and Kiss pictures, because I'm a huge fan of Kiss. It's pictures of me with Kiss. So
okay, that's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, so pretty cool.
You'll have to shoot some pictures of that and send them to me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've met him a few times. Okay, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Don't get me started on that, man.
No, you're fine. Well, if we ever get around to talking about Kiss on discography discussion, we might need some input from an expert. So
right on. Yeah, okay.
We'll get there eventually. We'll get there. Everybody's like, when are you guys doing a Kiss episode? I'm like, we'll get around to it. I'm just not overly familiar with Kiss. I don't hate them, but I don't know enough about them to love them either. So it's like I'm looking at having to do a solid 2 to 3 months worth of listening to the records and writing down my feelings about each thing and all that. So
right,
but the reason, go ahead.
I was to say, they've been around a while.
Yeah. The reason I called you on tonight is just because you've got a lot going on as of recently. You just got back from Furnace Fest, which I'm super jealous of. You're the first person that I've talked to, at least out loud, that has been to the fest. And I saw all your pictures, and I tried avoiding Facebook for most of that weekend because I was so bummed out that I wasn't there. But I guess the only question I have for you is, are you still sore?
Actually, kind of. Yeah, my right leg, being that I'm 49, is a little wore out from the goings on. I can tell you that I did not think that I'd be as sore as I was.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Thursday when I got back Friday night, I was sore from walking, but when I woke up Saturday morning, man, I was like, oh my gosh, I truly am old. I mean, it was like, I was like, holy crap, man. My legs were killing me. My buddy who came with me, we were walking like we had broken legs or something. But yeah, man, it was crazy. But yeah, I'm getting over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine just the amount of walking alone, even if you're not like in mosh pits or anything, just walking from one stage to the other stage looked exhausting from the videos that I was watching.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I think it was the standing more than anything, like, because I just watch shows. I'm too old to be doing all that crazy stuff now. So I would just stand in the back and watch the shows, and that wears on you, I think, worse than the walking.
Oh, yeah.
Just standing someplace.
Your body's like either move or sit down. Yeah.
Right. Now, the stages, they really weren't that far apart. They weren't as far apart as they appeared to be. But yeah, I mean, it would be a good couple of minutes walk, I guess, from one to the other.
Sure. Yeah, I feel that. I'm flashing back to Cornerstone, and I wasn't even old then.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that experience too, man. Believe me.
130 degree or 110 degrees outside, and you're like wearing little shorts, and
Yep.
Back then I could get away with no shirt.
Right. Well, yeah, and let's not forget that, of course, it had to rain the day before.
Oh, of course.
So it's like, so it's 130 degrees, and it feels like you're in a jungle.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I remember those days.
Well, it sounds exciting. So I'm gonna jump in a little bit to it. I actually want to get into a little bit of history. Now, I do feel obligated to say that Eric has been on my buddy Brian Patton's podcast, As the Story Grows, where he talked about kind of the history of Pluto Records and forming that label and all that. So I'm not going to get into every single part of that entirely, because there's a whole other podcast you can go listen to that has that story. But the thing that I found interesting is when the Charon Collective, not Karen Collective.
That's fine.
The new label, has kind of it seemed to just kind of spring up out of nowhere, and I was curious as to what got you into wanting to do a record label again.
Man, for like 15, no, it was longer than that because it was before I was married. For about 18 years. No, I guess it was about 15 because I was doing band management for a while with like Society's Finest and Gods and all those guys. I just got fried, man. I was done, and it just didn't feel like there was anywhere to go as far as like where I wanted to go. And I just stopped. I stopped doing it, and honestly was not into music, didn't really follow anything for almost 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And I started doing movie stuff, started doing a movie site. I interviewed a lot of actors and stuff over the years, started doing that. And then I guess it was 2019, I was scrolling around. Well, no, actually, yeah, it was before that. Brian Patton interviewed me. And
that's right.
Yeah, and that made me start to kind of do a little re-educating on what's happening, like what's happening in the scene now. So I started listening to some new stuff, started looking around. I listened to Brian's podcasts with people that, I basically worked with and grew up with 20 years ago,
right.
And was just amazed. I was like, whoa, man. I was like, this stuff that I was involved in that long ago actually means something to somebody.
Right.
I mean, he treated it like it was like some kind of reverence, he was reverent of it. And he was like, wow, this, you guys, you mean something. So that kind of was like, wow, okay, I guess I was part of something that I didn't really realize, So he got me involved in that. And then I was online looking around for new music and stuff. And I ran across one of my old bands called the Bumpus Hounds. It was an industrial project that I did with a guy named Neil. Oatmeal was his nickname, and
nice.
he was the bass player for one of the bigger death metal bands in the 90s and the 80s. They were called Red Ink. They were out of Houston, and when I met him, he was into industrial, so we started doing work together. We started doing industrial stuff together, and then the guys from Detophobia got involved and. Blah, blah, blah. I don't even know if you know who Detophobia is, man.
I do. I believe it or not, I actually do. I had I bought a tape, and I think it was like, God, what was it called? It was called something weird, like Donderfliegen or Donderfliegen or something.
Oh, wow, man. So you had the legit stuff from way back.
Yeah. I mean, I found it in a used bin. You'll come to find that I'm a little bit of a poser when it comes to that stuff. Like a lot of the stuff that I found over time, I didn't find back in the day when it was relevant. I found it way later.
Wow.
But
yeah, Wally and Brent from Detophobia. I went to high school with Wally.
Okay.
And then when I got out of high school, I got hooked up with him again because I was into industrial stuff, and he was basically the only Christian industrial stuff out there.
Right.
And when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, man, I went to school with that dude. So I just started hooking up with him and stuff. And he'd give me tapes of like the original Mortal stuff and Circle of Dust, like 4-track recordings. And it was awesome. But yeah, so I started doing that, and I found somebody posted it on YouTube, and I was like, whoa, man, why is somebody posting my music on YouTube? Yeah. So I found out it was Matt from Retroactive Records, which is basically the Rhino Records of the Christian industry.
Right.
He puts out,
reissue everything. Yeah.
Yeah. They do tourniquet and everything. Well, I contacted him. He's like, hey man, I want to put out your old stuff. And I was like, okay.
Sure.
So I said, I have another band called Primary Censor that came after that that's way better than this stuff. And he was like, well, let's put it all together on one CD. But yeah, there was so much of it that it's actually a 2 CD set.
Oh, wow.
So he ended up putting it out. And that also fueled that re-entry into my music world. And now I'm actually doing music in a band called Alar. It's me and the original guitar player from my old band. And every song we kind of get like a guest or somebody to play on it. And the last song just came out on the Into the Furnace comp. And it has Arthur on it from Living Sacrifice. He played bass on it.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. And then
you're singing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I do the vocals, if that's what you want to call them.
Sure.
And the first song we did was with, oh my gosh, Jason Wisdom.
Okay.
From Death Therapy. He played bass on that song and did some keyboard stuff on it as well.
That's cool.
So yeah, man, I mean, we just try to have a little fun with it and everything. I mean, we're never going to play live. I live here and my buddy lives in San Marcos now, or New Braunfels.
No, but you're going to play at Furnace Fest 2022, right?
No. No. But yeah, I've known him since he was like 15. So, I mean, we've known each other forever. But yeah, that long story short, which is, I guess is too late for that, is Brian Patton and Matt Hunt are to blame for all this.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And I've told him, I've told Brian that a couple of times. I said, dude, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this again. Because I mean, his interview like totally re-sparked my interest.
Well, and that's kind of a question that I was going to ask too, was that, if you're out of music for such a long time, and I feel like you kind of already answered it, but, were you surprised at how many people still cared even about those old bands and the old label? And I know some of the bands are still around, but like, was it surprising to you that people would like take a vested interest in being like, no, tell me the history of this?
Yeah. Cause I mean, man, I was totally unplugged. I mean, I didn't even listen to like a lot of new stuff. I listened to, the stuff old people listen to, the stuff they listened to when they were kids, or when I was growing up. I mean, I still had that same respect for, Living Sacrifice and the Crucified and Metallica's early stuff. And I want to stress that their early stuff. I'm just playing. The Beatles, Kiss, the Beach Boys. There was a period where I was way, way deep into the Beach Boys, man. Just discovering all their stuff. But yeah, man, it blew me away. And I mean, Brian's podcast is really what did it. I mean, when we were listening, I would listen to like the ones from Embodiment, Zayo, just those old bands. Cause I mean, dude, I booked those bands. I mean, when I was in Austin, I was a booking agent in Austin and I booked shows all over. I booked them at the Back Room, which is about to have a documentary released. It's legendary. It was like the metal hotspot through the 80s and 90s. But yeah, I would book shows there. I booked shows at my church. I mean, dude, I booked POD at my church. 75 kids, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like way, way, way back in the day, man. Like even before Brown hit. I think the first time they came was before Brown even hit. And then I know the second time was right after it came out.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd have them come out. I'd have MXPX, Slick Shoes, all those dudes. So when I'm listening to this podcast and they're talking about all this old stuff, I'm going, whoa, I was there for that. And I was there for that. And I was there for that. And then I'd see like videos of Zayo at Cornerstone and I'd be like, I'm standing behind the camera. I'm like, I was at this show, man. This is crazy. And it just totally just blew me away that like anybody cared, and that anybody, had any respect. And then when I would talk when he interviewed me about it, and I could tell that he cared. Like he really wanted to know stuff. I was like, this is crazy. Okay. I guess I was part of something that is way bigger than I thought I was, or that bigger than I thought it was. I don't want to say I thought I was.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that, it's interesting because I had the same reaction whenever I reached out to the Travail guys a while back when I was like, hey, I'd love to interview your band or whatever. And I remember Matthew was like, nobody wants to hear you talk to us for, however long. And I was like, dude, you would be surprised because like on discography discussion, we cut our teeth talking about old bands. We had a dude come up to us one time that was local to us and be like, you guys are the only people I know that talk about embodiment, or talk about Society's Finest, or talk about like a lot of these old bands. And it is shocking to me to see that people think that, nobody cares. Cause I realized that was a really small scene at the time. But I think what happened is it blew up, when Brian Patton calls you up and asks, tell me about the history of Pluto Records. You're like, what, why would anybody care? Well, because a lot of the biggest bands that are out there now, at least in this type of music, had their start there. And it was at a time when everything wasn't super documented. It was, before social media. There's not tons and tons of articles and YouTube videos and stuff to go out and get that history. Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was blessed. I mean, seriously. And at the time I didn't even know. I was just doing what I loved doing, man. Me and Brian was my buddy, and he liked the same stuff and we were cool. We just wanted to do stuff and have fun with it. And it kind of took on a life of its own, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, it blows me away too. And I'm absolutely beyond flattered that anybody cares, But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, my resounding answer to that is more people care than you would expect.
Yeah.
A lot of us are just now making those connections. Well, a lot of that stuff was going on, that early history. I remember being kind of a youth group kid, and every now and again you'd get a release, or you'd get an album from like I remember getting that Travail album. That was after they'd signed to the big label or whatever. I forget what that label was.
Metrovox. Which was like an alternative subsidiary of Metro One.
Yeah. So I remember getting that album, and then that like got me into heavier stuff. And it's funny, kind of looking back and being like, oh wait, hold on. You start seeing some of the names and the name of that label, Pluto Records, behind things, and you're just like, wait a minute, this is all, like this is like some kind of spawning ground for like bigger bands. And that's just but yeah, so I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe are big fans of like Norma Jean or fans of As I Lay Dying and things like that. It just being like, oh wow, it's really cool. I think I've still got the Pluto Records. It's the Travail and Ludacris split.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was super cool.
Dude, somebody was selling that. I swear somebody was selling that for like $100 on eBay, which is,
I'm sure they got
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And then the other day, somebody posted, and it might have been the Furnace Fest group. Somebody posted a picture of that split that they found in Goodwill, and I'm just like, I was like, what, man? So, and they were they were way far away. I'm pretty sure, you know, like from here. So that's kind of cool, you know. But yeah, I mean, man, when we started, I mean, we just wanted to help our friends,
right?
You know, I mean, we wanted to help Travail, and we wanted to help. You know, I worked for Embodiment. I was doing, like, I guess I try to say co-management, because Mark had a lot to do with stuff too, but we were like booking stuff and, you know, just kind of working together on stuff. But the label came about just because at first I was working with a guy out of Louisiana named Chris Hicks, and he wanted to do some stuff, and I knew the band. So I was like, well, why don't we do it and we'll distribute it? And so we did those first two. We did Kill Ratio, which was just a band of dudes from Austin that I liked. And They were kind of like I Hate God and I guess kind of Warlord, Neurosis, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that like sludgy, you know, sort of heavy stuff.
Yeah, and I just loved them. I loved them because I loved that stuff, and it just seemed I liked it. And then he was a big fan of Society's Finest. Chris was, and he wanted my help to promote it and distribute it and stuff. And I said, okay, that's cool, So basically, the label was Fury 161 / or distributed by Pluto Records.
Okay.
But after a couple of releases, it seemed apparent that maybe we should just do this ourselves. And nothing against Chris, it was just that me and Brian were together. Like we were in the same place, So we decided we're going to do a label.
Yeah.
And so we started. I sold the store because it was originally a store. We sold the store and everything with it, like the merchandise and everything, and then funded the label, starting with that. And that's how that started.
So whenever I'm jumping around a lot here. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine.
With starting the Charon Collective, I keep saying Karen like it's an EN. Charon Collective. I'm sure right, Joe will fix this in editing, right, Joe?
It's my fault for picking that.
You're fine. I just have to remember Charon Collective, not
there you go.
Collective.
You've got to say Collective. You got to say it like a Norse god. Charon
Collective presents. Yeah. So if you ever need a commercial, I can do that for you.
There you go.
But with the new label, like, how does one, after being unplugged for such a long time, how does one go about just kind of starting up the idea again? Because, by the time you've come back, everything's changed. Literally the distribution method has changed. I would even go as far as say that people's attention spans have changed and just the entire approach of everything. So what did you feel like that you needed to like get used to or kind of get updated on as far as doing this sort of thing? I know you've got kind of a focus on physical media too.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. That's like, without sounding like a showman or something, or like a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
That's kind of my niche shtick thing. That's like my gimmick. Okay. Because I go to these bands and most of them don't know how to do it, or they don't care to do CDs. And I'm just like, dude, let me put it out, man. Somebody still buys CDs. Let me put them out. They're special editions, or, that's what
sure. And they're special if nobody else has them. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody wants it, they can buy it. If not, whatever, So, it was an easy way for me to get back into it without having to sweat the way that Brian and I did with Pluto.
Sure.
Because Pluto was like the real deal, man. Right. Not that I'm belittling what I'm doing now, but when people ask me what I'm running now, I tell them it's a mini label. Yeah. Because it ain't Pluto, dude. Pluto was the real deal, man. That was like, distribution. Make sure this is done. Make sure you got this done. Blah blah blah. And it was a completely different animal.
Sure.
And I give a lot of props to Brian because really Brian was the businessman behind Pluto. I was the A&R face, because I knew the bands and I could bring, I kind of helped with that stuff and doing A&R stuff. But yeah, man, it's totally different. It's totally different. And I knew it was because that's one of the reasons why I got out of it. Is because I could read the writing on the wall, man. Things weren't the same. And as the streaming and MP3s and all that stuff started coming up, I was like, there ain't no money in this. And I didn't mean it like that. Like I didn't mean that I was trying to make a living at it because I worked the whole time.
Sure.
But there was like, for me, it was like, man, how are we going to keep doing this when it's switching gears? So yeah, I got out of it because for a lot of reasons, the bands were driving me insane. I won't say any names, but you know who you are.
There you go.
They were driving me insane, and I had a new family, and I was just like, I got to get out of this, man.
Yeah.
So I just got out of it. The reason I got back into it, or I decided to do a label again, is because the overhead is different now, and there's different ways to do things with manufacturing that there wasn't back then.
Sure.
It's an easier world now, and as far as that goes, CD pressing and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, basically the way I treat it is when I put somebody's CD out, they're getting my press skills as well, my A&R skills.
Sure.
Because I mean, every release I do, man, gets promoted to like the PRP, Lamb Goat. Sometimes they pick it up, sometimes they don't. They've picked up Hope Deferred stuff. They picked up something else too that was like way off. I was like, why in the world did they pick this up? Like out of everything. And not that the band's not good. I can't remember who it was, man. It was like Inborn Tendency, or it was the Scarlet Oath, but it was it was one of the smaller bands that I'm working with. And it seemed like the PRP or somebody just out of the blue were like, yeah, we'll promote this one. Yeah. So you never know, man. I mean, you never know what they're going to pick up and what they're going to be interested in.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of the way that I pitch myself to bands is, hey man, I want to put your CD out. I'm going to promote you though as well, and I'm going to help you with that. But yeah, my goal, and I know that I'm going off on a tangent.
You're
man,
fine.
My goal.
I got nothing going on tonight, so we're
all
good.
Right. My goal with the label is, seriously, man, if I had my way, every single band out there with any kind of clout I'd put their stuff out.
Sure.
I don't try to own their stuff. I don't try to take their digital distribution. I don't try to do any of that, man. All I'm trying to do is help them be involved and just help them to do something different that they're not doing. Because whether the world wants to admit it or not, and I know I'm probably going to make myself sound like an old cranky man, but dude, CDs sound better than MP3s. They sound better than whatever, waves or whatever. They do, man. That's just the way it is. And I know that there are a lot of kids out there that still buy them and they collect them, and that's cool. Whatever, I mean, that's what I do because it's a shtick. It's something that nobody else is really doing anymore, Yeah. But yeah, I would work with everybody, man. I mean, I've approached bands and they're like, no, we're not interested. And I'm just like, you're not interested in what, man? Right. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to put your CD out, dude.
Right.
Because I love them. I hear these bands and I'm like, man, you guys are incredible. I want to help you promote, and I want to put your stuff out on CD because that's my shtick. That's my gimmick thing. That's my thing that I do. And yeah, believe it or not, dude, I've had bands tell me no, and I'm just like, okay.
Well, I can understand that to a certain degree though, because like you're legit, but I know just from being in bands and even doing the podcast, I can't even tell you the amount of people that reach out all the time and are like, hey, I can help get you da 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 da. And 9 out of 10 times it's a scam. So like you're legit. They just don't know that you are,
Right. Right. Well, I hope that I'm building a name. I hope that I'm, trying to encourage them because I'm working with a lot of the guys that are kind of part of the foundation of what's going on in the independent metal and hardcore world. And I just try to treat the bands right, dude. And I try to, my whole goal is that I want them to want to work with me.
Sure.
And I want to have a relationship with them, man. Like Arthur from Yonova, which I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but they're one of the bands on my label.
Okay.
But they're like a doom black metal type,
nice
orchestral type thing. Yeah. And I'll talk about that later, but he's my art guy, man. And I love him. The dude's awesome. I've never met him in person. Ever. I've never met the dude in person, man, but we work awesome together. And he does great art. And that's the kind of relationship I want to have with every band. I want to have a relationship where I can talk to him and say, hey, man, let's do this. Hey, man, let's do this. You want to do that? Blah, blah, blah. You know?
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Are you, well, speaking of the bands, let's do a band rundown. Because I'm sure I know that there's a lot of interesting things that you're working on that I don't necessarily know if everybody else knows. So let's do a band rundown. What are the bands on the label or bands that it's hard to explain because I don't want to say bands on the label because then it sounds like, whatever.
That's how I approach it, because whether or not they've signed anything with me, that's how I treat them. I treat them like they're on my label.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's so, you can say that. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me.
Let's do a rundown of the bands that are on the label and which bands you are excited about. I mean, I'm sure you're excited about all of them or we wouldn't be talking about it.
Right. Well, just to give a little background, I started this whole thing in April and May.
Right.
Or maybe March. And I started out saying, okay, I'm going to do something when I'm interested.
Sure.
And about a month later, I was like, okay, I'll do one every couple months.
Right.
And then a month later, I was like, okay, maybe I'll do one every month. And now I've got 10 releases already since March. And, and I've got 3 or 4 more before the end of the year. So, I mean, it definitely took on a life of its own.
So you're back in it now.
Dude, I'm in the thick of it, man. I'm like way deep in the thick of it. Like I was at Furnace Fest, like hustling download cards and CDs and talking to people. So, I mean, believe me, I'm in the thick of it again for sure. The first band that I worked with, do you want me to run them down like that?
We can run them down. Yeah. I mean, there's there's not 100 releases, so it's not going to take all night.
Honestly, Hope Deferred is what really kicked it all off, because I've known Andy for decades.
Yeah.
and he's always been a favorite guitar player, and I love those guys, man. Mark was my best man in my wedding. And I've just always loved Embodiment. I mean, since I heard their 3-song demo,
Same.
I was sold.
Yeah.
I was like, dudes, they could be huge, And, but I mean, it started with that. I had ran into Andy in the end of 2019, right before the COVID blow up.
Yeah.
It was actually the weekend of the COVID blow up. Living Sacrifice came to town, and they were playing the Hasten Revelation kickoff show with like Crimson Thorn and Taking the Head of Goliath.
That's right. I remember that tour. Yeah.
Abated Mass of Flesh. A lot of those dudes. But Living Sacrifice came down, so I was like, I'm going to go see this, because I haven't seen those dudes in like 15 years.
Right.
So I went ahead and went, and it was awesome. Great show. Andy was there, and we just started talking, and I was like, dude, your new stuff is awesome. And he goes, thanks, man. It's actually about 5 years old.
Doing the band guy thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I said, so that stuff's 5 years old? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm not really doing anything with it right now. So I left the show, and about a year later, it was in March, I basically texted Andy out of the blue, or I emailed him. I was like, hey, dude, I want to start doing stuff again in music, and I want to work with you.
Yeah.
And I want to put out Hope Deferred's EP.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't think he was going to let me do it, man.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I didn't think he'd be interested, He emailed me back like 5 minutes later and was like, I'm all in. Absolutely. Let's do it.
There you go.
And I was like, whoa, man. Oh, okay. So that basically kicked it all off. So I did the Hope Deferred 2-song EP. There's a lot of people that are asking where the 3rd song went. the lyrics of the third song were not where Andy is anymore. So he kind of felt like
he decided to can it.
Yeah, he kind of said, nah, I don't want to, I'm not going to put that out on something. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So he did that. I just put the 2 songs out because I knew people would buy it. I mean, if they wanted it, if they wanted it physically, they would buy it.
Yeah.
So I threw out, it's like $4. I figured, that's $4. What is that for a CD? That's cool,
Yeah.
So yeah, we did that. And then, the next thing I popped up was a band called His Kingdom Suffers.
Okay.
I'm looking at my CDs over here.
Yeah, you're fine.
And it's kind of I kind of consider them to be deathcore. It's a one man band, and he's incredible.
Yeah.
He's a great singer. He's a great drummer. And he's a real drummer. He's not like, it's not programmed. It's real drums.
That's awesome.
Now I'm sure that he syncs them afterwards or cues them or whatever, sequences them or whatever.
Sure.
But he plays all the instruments, and he's solid, man. And he's a solid Christian guy, which I guess I'll get this out of the way. That's one of the main stipulations with what I'm doing now, is that I want all the bands I'm working with to at least be on some type of spiritual Christian wavelength. I'm not saying that they have to sing about it. I'm not saying that they have to necessarily be a preaching band or anything like that. Because because if you look at the way that I market stuff, I absolutely do not market stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't. But yeah, so he's very, very Christian lyrically, but I just thought it was good. I was like, man, this is good stuff. Let's start with this dude. Right. He had a full length already. So yeah, that one I did. And then I did, the guys from, The Beckoning and Scarlet Oath, which are basically the same band.
Yeah.
They got a hold of me, and I listened to some of their stuff, and I was like, okay, this is different. This is kind of cool, because it was like, it's more goth oriented.
Yeah.
It's kind of
you don't see that very much either.
Yeah,
kind of that scene anymore.
Right. And they're smart. Like lyrically, they're smart, and the music is symphonic. And there's a girl singer that does operatic vocals, and it was kind of out of my wheelhouse, but I was still like, I'm into this. I dig this. Okay, let's do this. So I put out Scarlet Oath next. And then, then I had, from previous interviews, I had spoke with Zach from Abated Mass of Flesh.
Okay. Yeah.
And kind of dug into his history, like musical history. And man, that dude is like a machine. He puts out a new 7-inch, or not 7-inch. He puts out like a new 7-song EP, like every 6 months.
Oh yeah, if you go to their Bandcamp, it's filled with releases.
Yeah, man, and it's not all Abated. It's like Abated, I Destroy I. What's the other one that they just did? I don't know, man. But he's got like 1,000 different bands. But they put him out like he puts new music out like every 6 months. It's like 7 songs, and every single one of them are quality.
Yeah,
every one of them. And
so I was studio.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got his own studio, and but yeah, so I talked to him, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I want to put out all the old Abated Mass of Flesh stuff. Nice. If it hasn't been pressed on CD, I want to do it." Yeah. And he was like, "Well, a lot of that stuff's been put on CD, but I've got a live album that we never did on CD. You want to do that?" I said, "I'll take anything, dude.
Yeah, let's do it." Yeah,
yeah, because Abated Mass of Flesh are awesome. Yeah. I mean, they're great musicians, and they're good at what they do. And they tour. Well, they tour sometimes. Yeah, they tour sometimes. They haven't started yet, but they will. I'm sure they'll start doing it again. And then Yonova, which is like symphonic black metal, doom metal type stuff, and that's a guy from Lithuania.
Okay,
and a guy from, that's Arthur from Tallahassee.
Okay,
wait, Nashville, Tennessee. Isn't Tallahassee in Tennessee?
I think so.
Okay, well, either way, he's in Tennessee. He's in Tennessee.
Yes, it's in Tennessee. I believe it's in Tennessee.
Okay,
I want to say it's Florida, though.
Yeah, I think you're right too. I think I'm off, but he's in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's definitely Florida. Now that I think about it, yeah,
right.
Sorry.
And I got them, and then found out that he had quite a bit of history with Society's Finest and with a lot of the older bands because he's an older guy, and his band would play with him. Their name was Red Winter Dying.
Okay,
and I'm actually about to put out their CD that they did in 2003.
Oh, cool.
It's more, when you hear it, it's definitely of that time. It sounds like early Hope's Fall, Society's Finest.
It's right on my alley.
It's really solid. But yeah, man, I picked Yonova up, and then The Beckoning, which is Scarlet Oath. It's the same guys. They just, one's more gothic than the other one. Like, it's a little more goth rock.
Gother than thou. No.
Yeah. So they wanted to split that up. And then Eonia, which I would suggest people who were into like Periphery and stuff, I think would dig Eonia. Maybe New Hope's Fall.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I put out Lazarus Complex, because Lazarus Complex, I interviewed them as well, and I liked them. And I was like, man, these dudes, these are cool guys, man. You know, I kept talking to them, and their music was cool. They actually did a single with Stu Block from Into Eternity and Iced Earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
that was the single that I released for the album. I would consider them to be deathcore.
Yeah.
Like Thy Art Is Murder, Whitechapel, that sort of stuff. What else? I got an album coming out Friday. The name of the band's Diatheke.
Okay.
Or I think I can't remember how oh my gosh, they're going to kill me. He told me how to pronounce it. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but either way, they're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. It comes out Friday. They are, man, it's like Mastodon if it was more prog metal.
Prog metal,
dude, you have no idea. There's 4 songs. It's a compilation of the first 4 songs they did, and the songs are anywhere from 8 to 13 minutes long.
Oh, wow.
And every single song has, like, in my opinion, movements. It's it's like an orchestral piece, every single song. And they're incredible, man. Musically, they're just stupid good. But yeah, some of those guys are in New York, or one of the guys is in New York, and 2 of them are actually from Dallas, where I'm from.
Okay.
Which is weird because I don't even know who they are. I talked to the guy in New York. I'm supposed to meet up with the 2 guys from Dallas. But yeah, man, they're solid. I would encourage anybody who's into like prog metal. I mean, I would even go as far as to say Coheed and Cambria.
Really?
Like some of their like more experimental stuff, which, I mean, a lot of their stuff's experimental. But yeah, they promote, who did they say they sounded? Or they were giving me, he told me Becoming the Archetype is somebody that influenced him pretty big.
Okay.
And give me a second, man. I don't want to tell you wrong. Ancestor,
nice.
Scar Symmetry, The Human Abstract. Just.
No, I like all those bands. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, but at the same time, it's completely like unique. Yeah. Like it doesn't sound like those bands. It's really awesome. I like them a lot. And then I did that Into the Furnace comp and gave those away at not Cornerstone. Holy crap. At Furnace Fest.
Furnace Fest.
I gave those away at Furnace Fest. I had 100 CDs made. So those are way, way, way rare. And it's the only physical release for that Living Sacrifice cover that Hope Deferred did. So yeah, if anybody's watching and wants a copy of that, I got maybe 10 of those left. The rest of them are all gone. If you're interested, you can text me or whatever, or message me or whatever. So what do I have coming up?
There's a couple I want to ask you about too.
Okay.
That I've seen you post about.
Go ahead.
Well, one of them, if I've got the name correct, and it piqued my interest, was Testimony of Apocalypse.
Yes.
So am I right in assuming that this basically is Sacrament 2.0?
It's half of Sacrament.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
All right.
Let's say it's two. How many people were in Sacrament? 5 or 4? I think it was 5, right?
I think it was 5, yeah.
Okay, let's say it's 2/5.
Okay.
It's 2/5 of Sacrament.
All right.
It's Mike, the original singer from Testimony of Apocalypse.
Awesome.
And it's Paul, who was the drummer for Sacrament, period.
Okay.
He played for him on Haunts of Violence and Testimony of Apocalypse and Presumed Dead, which is their EP, which, by the way, I'm putting out. I'm putting out the original.
You're putting out Presumed Dead?
Oh, I am, yes.
Are you putting out all the albums or just the demo?
We'll talk about that maybe later.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I plead
we'll talk about it in a private meeting later.
Yeah. We'll discuss that later. But I will tell you that I am absolutely for sure doing Presumed Dead.
That's cool because I don't have that, and so I'll have to order that because.
Yeah, and the artwork is very, very vintage.
Okay.
It's the original artwork and some really killer pictures of the band that I had never even seen. So I was like, this is cool.
That's exciting.
That's going to come out. I think I'm going to do it. Man, I keep saying I'm going to do it next year, like in January or something. But honestly, man, it'll probably come out this year. I don't have patience to hold stuff like that back, man. But yeah, Testimony of Apocalypse is Mike and Paul.
Okay.
From Sacrament. And it is Nick from he's been playing with Paul for years.
Okay.
In like different bands, like he's got a praise band at the church that they played together in. He was actually Paul's student. And then when he came out and was in college, he kept playing with Paul. He'd just keep playing with him. And he's into metal. He's into all kinds of metal. He's into Pantera, all the stuff. So he kind of brings like a groove to the Sacrament sound, because I mean, it sounds, in my opinion, it sounds like you can hear Sacrament in it.
Yeah.
But there's groove to it. There's like more groove to it.
That's interesting because they were always kind of more of a technical sort of thrash, more technical on the second album than the first, but the first is heavier. So it's good. Like this, weird balance between the two. Yeah.
Right. And they do have a demo single out that we put out. Okay. And you can check it out, but they just finished the full version of that, and it's going to sound way better.
Sweet.
And in my opinion, the stuff that they already released as a demo, I told them when they sent it to me, I said, "Dude, I'd put this out."
Sure.
Because I mean, to me, it sounded fine. But yeah, they're doing, I think, 10 songs, so it's going to be it's going to be a full length.
That's cool.
And it'll come out next year. But yeah, it was an absolute, and I told them this, it was an absolute honor, man, because those are people that, man, I grew up listening to them. I was like 15 or 16 when that Testimony record came out. And I mean, I'd sit up late at night because they had a show called Radical But Responsible in Austin. Mm-hmm. And it was like from mid or 10 to 1 in the morning or something.
Oh, wow.
And they'd play like all this underground metal and stuff. And Sacrament was one of those bands, so for me, I was like, wow, I was like, this is awesome.
Sure.
So yeah, dude,
I got excited just seeing you post about it. I was like, wait, what is this? And unfortunately I ended up getting distracted by something else, before I was done reading it. But I was like, I'm going to be talking to him, soon. So I'll just, I'll save it for then. But that's super exciting. I mean, I've been a massive fan of Sacrament for a while. I've got both of the full length albums on cassette and CD. I've got the original CDs as well as the reissues and all of that. Which, I mean, I'm just going to say this. I don't know if you're allowed to say this, but the reissues that were put out I did not like those. The CD reissues, they didn't come with liner notes or like anything. They were in cool like digipacks, but they weren't like, you didn't have all the stuff. And I remember having that original REX Haunts of Violence and the weird cover and all that stuff. I used to love just like looking through that.
Wait till you see the new Haunts of Violence cover. There's a cover and it's pretty brutal, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. They started sharing with me like all this stuff,
That's
like
cool.
stuff that that REX wouldn't do because, of their distribution and stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, back in those days, you had to be careful what you sent to the Christian outlets and stuff.
Yeah.
Or they wouldn't release it. They'd send it all back to you. And
exactly right.
If you were lucky, they'd send it all back to you. I have heard horror stories of them just getting thrown away.
Yes, I can tell you that's probably happened a few times. Believe me.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
So the other band, and I don't remember if you were working with him directly or not, but I know that you've got Andy from Embodiment, but then also Mark from Embodiment is putting out his own project. Is that something that, and I've seen him post about it, or is that something that you're working with as well?
No, I'm not really doing that. Not for any particular reason,
Sure.
Like I said, I mean, me and Mark go way back, I mean, we don't talk very often at all anymore.
Sure.
We just kind of text back and forth or message each other back and forth every once in a while. But, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where he wants to do what he wants to do and Andy wants to do what Andy wants to do. And there's no static there or anything.
Sure. Different ideas. I mean,
different ideas. I mean, Mark wants to be real organic in the way that he does stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like he records drums live and which is awesome. I mean,
he's the guy to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's got a dude playing lead for him that is absolutely bonkers amazing. Zach Leeser. And he's got a few records out. And I can tell you right now that if you're into like technical death and stuff, go look him up for sure on Spotify. It's ZACLEASER. And Zach Leeser. And I've talked to that guy for years. I've been like, your stuff rules, dude. You've got to do something with this because it's ridiculous. Awesome. He's so good. But yeah, the Embodiment of All Famines I have nothing to do with them.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember. Sometimes I get my wires crossed.
Right. No, the only thing that I do is encourage Mark to absolutely do whatever he wants to do, man.
Yeah.
And I've heard the stuff and it's good, man. It's good.
I saw him with Sacrifice a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could have seen him.
I was at the warm up show. I didn't get to go to the main event, which was Furnace Fest, but
the main event didn't happen.
Yeah,
he burned his hand.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yes, the main event did not happen, and that was a way big letdown for me, man.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I just figured he was there. Okay.
No, man, no, he burned his hand at his. I think it was at his bakery.
Okay.
And couldn't do it. Yeah. So I was way bummed about that. They were still great though.
I wish I would have recorded. I wish I would have caught more video of that show then.
Right.
There was another guy that I met at the show that I think he recorded the whole thing on his phone. It wasn't much for sound quality. He was outside and all that. But yeah, that was it was. I remember it being really, really hot. I was surprised they were going as hard as they were because it was burning up. Because I got there in the evening, and like it was already starting to get dark. It was still really, 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 really hot outside.
Right. Yeah, they their set at Furnace was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've never been disappointed by them, but this was definitely, I think, amped up a few notches, you know, and it always helps, you know, when there's, you know, 3,500 to 4,000 to 5,000 people watching them.
It does help. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which is insane. So yeah, go ahead.
It's okay. I was curious too as to what bands you enjoyed the most as Furnace Fest. As we're kind of wrapping up here, I want to get in what you feel like some of the best Furnace Fest performances were.
Well, I can tell you that Zayo was probably the tightest that I've ever seen him.
Dude, they're a machine.
Yeah, and that's not that's not taking anything away from Jesse, because I mean, dude, I love Jesse. I just reconnected with Jesse about a year ago.
Yeah,
and love that guy, man. But they were a machine. I mean, and they were just loud, man. And they sounded good, and they were into it. The crowd went ballistic.
I'm sure.
Josh from As I Lay Dying watched the show with me for a while. He was standing with me. And it was amazing just to hear him talk about how much they mean to him. Just, you could hear it in his voice. You know, you're thinking As I Lay Dying. I mean, these dudes are like, you know,
huge rock stars.
You know, but yeah, man, I mean, he just could not stop. You know, he was like, dude, what about Trash Can Hands? What about this? What about, oh man, they got to play this one. I got to hear this one, you know? And I mean, he was just floored, you know, and it was awesome just to be able to experience that. But yeah, they were awesome. Sacrifice was awesome. Silent Planet was pretty freaking solid.
Yeah.
August Burns Red, they were solid.
Always. Yeah.
Stavesacre was great.
That's one that I'm really disappointed I missed. Yeah.
They were great. And it was an added bonus that Jeff was there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of who else. Mineral was absolutely breathtaking. I've been a fan of Mineral forever, dude. I mean, I saw them in '97, right after The Power of Failing came out.
Yeah.
And I saw them in a little dive bar. I think it was actually called Hole in the Wall. and it was on the Drag, Guadalupe, in Austin. And they played on the floor of this bar, and they were incredible. They just captivated me, man, the first time I saw them, and I've loved them ever since. So I'd seen them a few times, but I didn't see their reunion when they came back a couple years ago. And man, they played, and it was like it was like a religious experience for me. And I don't mean that in a blasphemous way. I just mean that it was just emotional, man.
Sure.
Just to sit there and go, wow, you know, these guys sound like this still. And their songs just, Chris Simpson, dude, is excellent. That's all I got to say. As a songwriter, I love that dude. You know, I've been able to talk to him a couple times just online about Mountain Time and stuff, which is his new project. But they were excellent. I'll tell you who blew me away, and I couldn't even see them. I could just hear them. Deaf Heaven.
Oh my God. Yeah. They were dude, the band that I think everybody really, they were a sleeper.
Oh my gosh.
A sleeper hit. Yeah.
They were unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, the sound, I wasn't even in the shed. I was outside the building.
Yeah.
And I could hear them, and I was like, wow, these guys are incredible. And, so yeah, they were really good. And somebody that I listened to this is a regret. Somebody that I listened to after Furnace Fest, but I kept seeing their shirts and I kept going, man, those shirts are kind of cool. Dying Wish.
Dying Wish. Okay. Yeah.
With that girl singer.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Wow, man.
Top notch. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that I would have seen that, because that new album that they just put out is incredible, man. The production is just unbelievably good on it. And it's just metalcore. It's just good old metalcore, man, with leads.
Metalcore goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And her voice is great. She sings and screams. Yeah, man. Yeah. I regret not seeing them now. That's a regret for me.
Well, I know people had to make a lot of hard choices too, though, you know?
Yeah, man. I didn't get to see, and this will probably, some people that watch this will probably want to throw up when I tell them this, but I really wanted to see Thursday, dude.
Yeah, dude.
I wanted to see Thursday. Yeah, I wanted to see Taking Back Sunday. And there were other things that for me took precedent over those because they were people that I knew,
right,
or that, I knew I wouldn't see again.
Sure.
Because probably they were never playing again.
Right.
Terminal. I saw Terminal.
Yeah. Awesome.
And they were great. And I got to talk to those guys. I hadn't seen them in years. And it really meant a lot just seeing them and seeing how far they've come. And I know they're not like a functioning band right now, or I don't think they are. But man, I knew those kids when they were letter 12, man. They were like 16 and 15-year-old kids.
Jeez.
And it's just amazing, like, to see Travis, and he's like 35 and he's a dude.
Right.
I told him, I said, man, you grew up, man. He goes, yeah. And he's just, cause I hadn't seen those dudes. Ryan, I saw because I worked with him somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like we worked at the same company. So I kind of knew Ryan when he was putting together Oh Sleeper.
Right.
But yeah, Travis and those dudes, I hadn't seen them in probably 15 or 16 years. And just to see Travis, and just, that was kind of emotional too, man, just to see those dudes, because they were so young, and to see them now and just to see them do what they were doing. And they would ask me all the time about Pluto.
Yeah.
when they were letter 12, and I would just be like, get
off my doorstep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now I just see it and I'm just like, man, those kids came a long way. I'm really proud of them. But yeah, they're solid. They were solid. Holy Gold.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen them live. Yeah.
Yeah. The dudes from Norma Jean.
I saw them
or the original.
Yeah, I saw them with Zayo actually 2 years ago. I think down in Nashville. They played right before Zayo did.
You want to know how far out of this whole thing I was?
Huh.
Dude, I didn't even know they existed.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know they existed until this last weekend.
Oh, wow.
Or at Furnace Fest. Yeah, I was like, what's Holy Gold? What is this? And I went in and I looked at it and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is Scotty and Durr?
Yeah, it's like the old Norma. It's like the old Norma Jean, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, man. So yeah, I went back and I checked out their set, and man, they're great. They're a great little band. It's like basically, well, I don't know whether I should say this. It's like Norma Jean, but with like a Southern boogie thrown in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, and, I got that vibe. It's a little bit like, it's a weird way to describe it, but kind of like dirty, like a little sleazier almost, like in a way. Not sleazy as in like for real sleazy, but that sound,
Here's the other way that I said. They sound like Norma Jean with He Is Legend.
Yeah.
Kind of blended into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a little bit more Southern flavor to it, I think.
Sure.
But yeah, man, they were solid, man. But and Beloved.
Yeah.
Beloved set was so incredibly good, and the energy in that room from the second they hit the strings was out of control. It was like just sheer waves of energy coming off the stage. So yeah, that was really cool too. And
did you catch Few Left Standing?
No, I did not. And I'll tell you why, is because there was another band playing at the same time. I didn't never know those guys.
Gotcha.
So I mean, if somebody was playing that I had known from before, I kind of felt like I needed to see them because it was like a historical thing.
Sure. I get that.
But yeah, I mean, the other part of it though, and I want to make, I know that we're running out of time here, but I want to make it very clear to people. If you didn't go to Furnace Fest, and I'm not just trying to I'm not trying to pull stuff with Chad or anything or try to get some favors or anything. But dude, if you didn't go to Furnace Fest, you blew it. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that to be rude. I'm saying it as a 49-year-old guy that hadn't seen these bands and hadn't seen a lot of these guys in a long time. This festival was the best run fest I've ever been to. They had some problems the first day with vendors running out of food or stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, Saturday at 10 a.m., there were more vendors and there were more toilets, man.
There you go.
I mean, it was on the spot. Those dudes knew exactly what they were doing and they knew exactly what they had to do. And awesome. It ran smoothly. And everybody that was there was so happy to be there. I mean, they were just, everybody got along. As far as I'm aware of, I never saw anybody get in a violent fight.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was totally cool. It was crazy, man. I mean, if you guys go to the Furnace Fest, Friends Facebook page,
yeah,
that's literally what it felt like.
They're very positive. Yeah. A very positive group. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is literally what it felt like, man. It was like the whole weekend was just this big, positive, joyous, just lightning in a bottle captured moment.
That's awesome.
And I mean, they're doing it again next year. And I can tell you that I absolutely, definitely plan to be involved in some way or form or fashion. But yeah, I give kudos to Chad and Mike Zemer and Ryan Luther and anybody else that worked on that thing, because I'm telling you, man, anybody else in their right mind would have gave up 2 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, when COVID hit, I would have just sent the money back. I would have been like, just take it, just get it out of here. But yeah, no, man. I mean, they held out and they did what was right, man. And that festival was definitely a highlight of my life. And just being able to see and reconnect with, the dudes from Zayo and the dudes from Normagene and from Terminal. I mean, it's stupid, man. Terminal lives 15 minutes down the road from me. And this is the first time I'd seen him in 15 years, and it was 600 miles away from home.
Right.
But yeah, man, I mean, it just, and getting to hang out with Josh outside of As I Lay Dying's dressing room.
Sure.
Oh yeah. One more thing about the label. I've got 2 projects that are coming up. I haven't even announced them yet.
Okay.
But I did want to say, because it's me kind of sticking my foot out a little more.
Sure.
There's a band that's been around a while called Red Weather.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a Get Up Kids. What was the label that had all those kinds of bands? Vagrant?
Vagrant, or I mean,
they almost
drive through.
Let's say, yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah, they kind of sound like an old school Vagrant or Drive Through type band. I mean, obviously with a modern spin.
Sure,
but they're very, very rock and very, very pop. I'm going to be putting out their CD.
That's cool.
Because I mean, I've always been into that stuff anyway.
Yeah, just because people have this misconception, just because you like heavy music, you must not like anything else. Yeah,
right. And then I'm putting out Whom I Serve, which is one of the guys from Moth Altar.
Okay.
And that is more along the lines of like Deftones, stuff like that. They're screaming and singing both.
That's cool. Yeah.
So I'll be doing that one as well. I'm about to do that one as well. So I am kind of branching out a little bit, taking some chances as far as that goes. There was one other thing I wanted to say about Furnace Man. I can't remember. Go ahead.
Right. No, it's all good. It's all good. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out, because there's a lot of stuff that I had wondered, and like you and I could have talked about all this stuff over Messenger, but that sucks. So, but I definitely like what you're doing with the label, and I'm interested in some of the bands that I haven't heard, and obviously that testimony of Apocalypse stuff is,
right,
really, really up my alley, and Hope Deferred and all that stuff. And I just think it's cool. I think it's cool that you started off kind of doing your own thing. You went away for a while, you came back full circle, and you're back kind of, you're kind of back in the thick of it, and I think that is super cool. And it gives me hope that I can, once I hit 30, I was like, I'm never going to do anything with music again,
Right.
And so I do find people like you inspirational in that, like, it's never too late to do what you like doing, or as I like to call it, taking your fandom to the next level.
Right.
And actually participating.
Yeah. And I mean, Andy, I think from Hope Deferred said it the best, man. I mean, I was telling him about Furnace Fest and how awesome it was. And he was like, dude, he goes, you need to stop and you need to take it all in, because it's only going to happen one time, and what he meant by that was not, it's an experience that you don't want to forget. Right. And that's how he's doing with Hope Deferred. He's like, you know what, man, I have a time limit. I can only do this, it's now. I can do this now, because I might not have tomorrow to do this again. And that's kind of how I'm trying to treat everything. And, that's what I'm trying to do with the label. I made a joke. I should have called it Veteran Records, because I just posted something in the Furnace Fest thing the other day. I was like, hey, man, I said, anybody who's 45 years old and wants to write adulting hardcore, send it to me and I'll put it out, man.
There you go.
I said, I'm all about that. I said, we can start a whole new revolution, dude. Midlife crisis hardcore. I'm totally down.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, I'll quit yammering. Go ahead.
No, you're good, Eric. Thanks so much, man. I'm gonna have links to all your stuff kind of in the show notes for the audio podcast, as well as on this video. I'll have to go in and add them after the fact, but they will be there. So if you're watching this not live, then I'll have all that info for you. A lot of great bands, a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe. It's got my approval, and you guys should definitely check it out, because I think there's going to be some really, really, really cool bands coming out here from what it sounds like this year, and some have already come out.
Yeah. There's one more thing. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my wife and my family for putting up with my crap, because believe me, it's not easy. And my wife, I actually met doing music. She was a singer in a band, in a metal band. But yeah, that's all. I just wanted to say thanks to my wife, and thanks to everybody that supports what I do and what I'm trying to do, and just God bless you guys, man, all of you.
Awesome. Well, we will catch you guys on the next episode. I don't know when that's going to be just yet, but as you guys know, Discography Discussion comes out every week, so you're going to have that at least. Eric, thanks again, man, and we will catch up again very, very, very soon.
Absolutely.
This has been the Discuss Metal Podcast with Eric Shirey of the Charon Collective. Presented by discussmetal.com.